This conference will now be recorded.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. It is now 4:30 p.m. on Wednesday, May 10th, 2023, and I will call this public hearing to present the 2023 financial plan to order. We're meeting in the municipal office in Winnipeg, and I respectfully acknowledge that we are meeting on Treaty 1 territory, the traditional land of the Cree and the Anishinaabe, and the homeland of the Métis people. This public hearing is a continuation of our financial plan hearing that began at our May 2nd, 2023 council meeting. Due to technical difficulties, we were unable to complete the financial plan hearing, and we adjourned that council meeting, leaving the financial plan hearing open. The new date and time for this hearing were advertised on our website, on our official Facebook page, and sent out to residents by email via Connect. So per the Planning Act, the 2023 VB financial plan was advertised in the Free Press on April 14th and 21st and on our website. This hearing is to provide residents with an opportunity to hear the financial plan for 2023 and to make comments. Our CAO, Lon Turner, has prepared an informative PowerPoint presentation, and following that, there is time for questions. At this time, I will advise that other than council and our CAO, there are no residents in the audience and no one online. Resolutions for the 2023 financial plan will follow at our May 16th council meeting. Council has taken considerable time planning and discussing the 2023 financial plan. We debated and discussed for about 2.5 days, taking into consideration last year's numbers, inflation, the needs, the wants, and the wishes that will benefit the community as a whole and provide the services expected of our residents. Taking everything into account, we are pleased with the budget for 2023 that we've arrived at. I will now hand it over to our CAO, Lon Turner, to present the PowerPoint presentation and the highlights.
Thank you, Penny. Just give me a second here to get the screen. Okay.
Can I
fasten your seats? Oh, do you guys mind if you mute your microphones?
Yeah. Yes, I can do that. Sorry.
Thanks. Okay, we'll just move forward here.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is a financial plan presentation for the tax levy for this year for 2023. Going over today, we'll go over the municipal taxes. We'll review what happened last year and look at our budget for this year. Quick view on school taxes for this year. We'll get into detail for the departments on our revenue and expenditures. Look at utilities a little bit. Look at our capital assets and reserves. The 5-year planning program is also included, and at the end there's time for summary and questions. So this is the main slide that kind of summarizes everything. So in 2022 we had an expenditure budget of 3.5 million, and we had budgeted to pay for that by taxing 2.3 million, and then we had some money transferred out of our reserves and there are other revenue that we got, so to get a balanced budget. We had an assessment, a taxable assessment of 143.4 million. We arrived at a mill rate of 16.45 for last year. So 2022 reality came around. Actual is a little different than what we planned for. We had total expenditures of 3.7 million, but we paid for that difference by some other revenue that we got from grants from the province of Manitoba for the emergency repair that we had to do on our dike on the east side of the RM. We transferred a few more money in reserves and our taxation stayed the same. We arrived at a small surplus of over 70,000 in cash. Shows a variance there. Now looking at for 2023, we have planned expenditures of 3.45 million. We're going to tax 2.4 million, which is up 3.5% compared to last year. And then we're going to use some money from our reserves, 270,000, and then other revenue of 741,000. A nice change is that our taxable assessment has gone up by 15.4%, which means that we can lower the mill rate to meet the taxation needs. So instead of 16.5, it'll be 14.7. So even though the tax increase overall is up by 3.5%, that doesn't mean that's what your taxes are going to be. The total assessment change is due to many contributing factors. One of them just individual property market values. Your house last year was worth 15% less than it is this year, and you didn't do anything to it. There are other people that did property improvements. They tore down the old house and built a big one, nice new one, so that's worth more. And then, of course, there's been a few subdivisions around the RM2, which just adds to the tax base. School taxes, the main one that everybody's going to see will be the Lord Selkirk School Division tax, and it's up 2.9% this year overall. So it's pretty reflective of what the VB is doing as well. Looking at each different department, so this is other revenues. This is where we can transfer money out of our reserve funds or our savings account. There's penalties and interest on outstanding accounts. We have properties around the RM that the RM owns that we lease out. There's permits and fines and fire services that we share with the RM of Alexander. And then, of course, we have golf course revenues, and we get some grants from the province and the federal government. So last year, we budgeted 1.148 million in other revenue. We brought in 1.4. Most of that was, again, increased revenue transfers from the reserves. And we brought in extra grant money from the province to pay for our emergency. So this year we're budgeting 1.012 million, a little bit less than last year. General government expenditures, this includes all the council indemnities and expenses, staff salaries, benefits, office, legal audit, assessment insurance, and other grants to organizations. Last year we had a budget of 616,000. We're pretty close to it. And this year we have slight decrease in the budget of 609,000. That's mostly due to some staffing changes in the office. Protective expenditures, this police, fire, emergency 911, our summer gate office, animal control, and our building inspector. Last year we budgeted 834,000. The actual was 862, so we're slightly over there, but not too bad. And this year we budgeted 790,000, so down quite a bit from last year. Most of the departments here were at or under budget, except for the emergency measures, which is about $120,000 for the dike repair that we had to do. So that's why that number is a little bit more higher than usual. The reason that the budget is less than compared to last year is that there were some line items in the fire protection department that shouldn't really be in fire protection. One came over to public works and another one came over to the administrative side. So that's the only reason there for that change. Transportation, this is public works and equipment, which includes fuel, insurance, repairs, gravel, dust control, signs, snow removal. Last year we had a budget of 740,000. Ended up with an actual of closer to 800,000, over by 57,000. This year we're budgeting, compared to last year, we're about $88,000 more for a total budget of 829,500. Most of the overage last year was due to just a change in inflation with the fuel prices that kind of spiked on us. A little bit more for equipment repair, but most of it was for the overtime that was needed to stay on top of everything there in the spring. The big budget increase this year was the Fire Smart program. There was 25,000 that was allocated to the fire department, which has come over to Public Works to buy to get more staff and equipment to help pick up the brush pickup, and some other line items in there as well. But most of and increased staffing is most of that expense. Environmental health, this is our nuisance ground and our recycle operation. Last year we budgeted 213. We came in at 180, which is $32,000 below budget. And this year we're going to budget 217,000. Well, the reason that we were under budget last year was the waste depot didn't really become operational as planned, as I had hoped, but it will be for this year, and that's why the budget is kind of matching what the budget was for last year. Public health and welfare, that's the doctor's cottage and social welfare services. We had a budget of 7550. We came in a little bit higher at 8784, which is not too bad. Most of that is just for materials and supplies for the doctor's cottage. So we decided to keep the budget the same for this year. seems to be a healthy enough budget. This is another big department here, environmental development. This is a management mostly around municipal properties around DRM. So it's maintenance of all the municipal properties, accessibility projects, brush pickup, stairs, parks and trails, streetlights, planning and zoning. Last year we had a budget of 210,000. We came in at 222, slightly above. And this year we have a budget of 231,164. This includes the stairs. There's some parks,
Some accessibility projects.
accessibility projects, yeah.
And
Pretty similar to last year's budget, slightly above. And yeah. The Victoria Beach Golf Course has been having some pretty good years. They had a budget of 170, but their actual expenses were down. And they came in at 160, and they were pretty profitable last year, which is good. So this year we kind of kept the budget line item the same so they can get some stuff done. I think the decrease in that budget from last year and the actual was due to we had our manager there found some cheaper equipment, which was really good, and then their chemicals and fertilizer, what we had planned for, was less than what was budgeted. This one is for money that's going to be going towards larger capital assets over $10,000. So last year we had a budget of 370,000, but we came in quite a bit higher at 511. The reason for that is the garbage and recycle depot, we had a budget of 180. It was a little bit higher at 192. Police modular payments, those were on budget. Golf course is on budget, but vehicles and equipment, that was, we transferred some money out of equipment reserve to pay for this. That included a new truck, a grant to the dredger, and there was something else there too, a trailer or something that we bought towards the end of the year. And then municipal properties, this is a reflection of all the donations that were made from the community that went towards the bakery property. All of that, a majority of those were capitalized into equipment and building for the repairs that were done there. This year we have a budget of 265,000. It's quite a bit less than last year, but what that includes is we allocated another 56,000 to the recycle depot to finish it up and get it going. We're going to finish off the payments to the police RTM. We have 130,858. We have one $80,000 payment left to make in the fall, in the summer, end of summer. There's some other equipment that we bought for public works, top kick dump box, some more equipment, and we added some contingency in there for overages on these projects. Last year, as you can see, like the garbage recycle prices hit us, and there's some overage, and there's some other small projects too around the RM that we needed, just didn't have our quotes in. So we wanted to have a small little fund there to cover those when they come in. Reserve fund deposits, last year we budgeted 336 and we put in 336, and this year we're budgeting 332,000, which is basically makes up the general reserve $100,000, equipment reserve 210. The bylaws for 200, but we're going to put another 10 in there to anticipate future expenses. And gas tax reserve, the grant that we get from the Fed, goes straight directly to the reserve. I'm not going to go over this in great detail. This is just a reserve balance is what happened throughout the year. At the beginning, right down at the bottom, you see we started with a balance of $886,773. There was $13,377 in interest that was accumulated. We put in $370,745, and we took out $131,699. And at the end of the year last year, we had $839,196 in there. And $431 went into long-term assets as you to benefit the VB. This year, what we're planning on at the bottom there, we're starting 839, projecting around 12,000 in interest. We're going to put $337,000 in. We're going to take out 240, so we should have a closing balance around 950,000 at the end of the year, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Our water utilities, we've got two, the Albert Beach. This year we're planning, balanced budget for the Albert Beach water plant. The Victoria Beach one, the amortization expenses are kind of, we have a net deficit. We've had a deficit the last year or two, so we have to get a contact with PUB and get another rate application going to change it. So we'll be working on that this summer. Hopefully get it in place for next year. Just keep in mind, this isn't a cash deficit, so we're not losing money. It's just a non-cash expense of the amortization expenses that causes this. Well, this is kind of the exciting part of things. Looking long term, this is by no means etched in stone. This is trying to look out to long-term capital planning for the RM. There's a fire hall expansion that's going to be needed because we're going to need a new fire truck, and the current fire hall is not going to be able to accommodate a new fire truck. And the police, the office is not really working for them long term. Parking lot expansion is going to happen fairly soon. The fire truck, we're guessing, is going to be around 650,000, but it could be more by the time. Get it ordered and paid for. The Albert Beach pump house building will be needed to be redone. Second, police. It's kind of been talked about. We're not quite sure what we're going to be doing there, but there's 300,000 allocated there. New garbage truck is going to be needed as well as a new grader. And both of those will be probably not brand new purchases. They'll probably be trying to find a used one that's in good shape. For 5 years is 1.9 million. Okay, great. How are you going to pay for that? Well, we're hoping all at once, whatever during the year is, you tax a little bit for it to help pay for whatever purchase that you're going to be making that year. Because the RM is putting over $300,000 into reserves every year, over 5 years, that's 1.5 million. So a lot of that money can be used to pay for a lot of those projects. I don't know if council will like this one. I just put in a possible borrowing debenture, because if you get the fire truck, you're gonna have to do the fire hall at the same time. And just looking out, I don't know if you're gonna have $1 million within 3 years to pay for that. So you might have to take out a small debenture for paying that, but we'll get to that when we get to that. We're coming to a close here. So what does this mean for individual houses? And we can't control the school tax, but we can look at municipal taxation. So there's 5 roll numbers that I took from throughout the RM, 2 in the VRA, 1 in Albert Beach, just VB at large, and the other one in Wanasing. Their assessment change in 2023 compared to the previous years varies from 114 to 110. Okay, good. So what does that mean? So that tax change, so looking at the first one here, their tax, $57 municipal tax dollars. That's going to go up for that one property. The other house in the VRA is going to go down by $13, even though their assessment went up. So the tax changes are fairly minimal for these 5 properties. And anybody that has their notice of assessment handy, they can kind of figure out what they're going to be taking for taxes. If you look at your new 2023 assessment, the taxes will break even if your assessment only increased, not only increased, but increased by 11.4%. That means you'll be paying the same amount of taxes that you paid last year towards the municipality. It's kind of confusing, but kind of. And I think that brings us to a close. So here, taxation revenue summary. Out of everything that's going to be coming through the office here is just a little over $5.5 million. 2.1 of that is for the school, so that's an in and out. And then we have $3.4 million for municipal revenue and taxes to spend. And you can see the pie chart on the right. It breaks it down where most of the money goes to the municipal expenditure summary there. A large portion of that goes to transportation services, protective services, and then, of course, your general government to keep things going. And that's it.
Well
Any
done.
question?
Well done, sir. Council have any comments or questions? There you are, you're back. Graham? Graham, you just need to unmute yourself.
Mute myself.
There you go.
I just have a couple of comments and perhaps a suggestion. This pertains to the 5-year capital plan projection as it was presented just a couple of moments ago. As far as the $300,000 for the second police modular home, that's off. That's out. We're not prepared to proceed with that in this fiscal year. So that can be presumably allocated elsewhere. Second suggestion is on the fire hall police expansion. That $450,000 is just a drop in the bucket for an expanded fire hall and a proper police office. Our reserves are looking good, so we can keep up with necessary equipment and machinery, large expenses like the fire truck, of course. But there's no use buying a larger fire truck right now because it won't fit in our fire hall. I would like to just toss out the idea that for the fire hall expansion and the police office, we might want to consider an LIP, local improvement plan, like we did years ago on the water plant, because I think we're going to get pretty close to $2 million for the fire hall and the police building. So I just toss that out for what it's worth. We're not going to be able to do those out of the money that we're setting aside for new equipment.
Well, it looks like there's a 2-year plan on those, so we can certainly discuss that.
Yeah, I just wanted to raise the issue. We might have to look for other sources. And as you know, with an LIP, that adds a few bucks to everybody's tax bill for a few years. That might be the most effective way to cope with these building requirements. But the good news is you can draw a line through that $300,000 for the second police modular home.
Right. Okay. Any other comments? Thank you, Graham. Erwin? Sorry, I'll get your next, Ian.
I just wanted to point out that we did receive a unexpected bonus payment from the provincial government this year. I think it was on the order of about $57,000 over what they were paying in the past. And that represents the first increase in municipal funding that the province made in a long time. That helped our budget. Second point I wanted to make is that we did take a look at the police budget, pretty much kept it, we actually reduced it slightly from previous years. Hopefully the balance between police and the CSOs will work out well. I think it did last year, but we're trying to put a cap on, not a cap on, but limit the expenditures for police at this point.
Correct. Thanks, Erwin. Ian, you had your hand up, sir.
I did. Just curious. It's not really I guess it is a budget related issue. It's the office. I know we were looking at other spaces, and I just wondering what the status was of that and where we are in the process.
Sorry, Ian, I missed the question. What was it?
Yeah, no, I was just asking about I know our lease is coming up in, was it November, the fall anyways, and we were looking at other spaces, or you were looking for other spaces. And I was just wondering where we are in the process, and where are we in the process?
Yeah, no, that's good. Sorry. November 30th is when this lease expires. They want another 7-year lease signed, and you all know what we pay in rent. So we did find another place on Portage. It's just a mile west of here. It's slightly bigger. The rent, we could save a little bit of money, but it's a 5-year term, and we're still negotiating that one. He wanted more money than originally sought. I don't have a lot of experience with commercial leases and leasehold improvements, but I guess there's some companies out there that'll just take it for $15 a square foot, come in there and then spend another 50 to 100 of their own money, 100,000 renovating the place, and just amortize the leasehold improvements off for their operating procedures. But we obviously can't do that, so we're asking him to get everything built up the way we want it. So I sent him a response saying what we need, what we're looking at, and then he came back with us in upping the square footage. So trying to find something in the $20 to $23 range per square foot, which at the end will still lower our annual rent expenses, because this being in a tower is quite expensive. So hopefully we'll save the arm 10 or 15,000 and get a shorter lease term. So if another opportunity comes available, we're not stuck for that length of time.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks, Ian. Erwin?
Those potential savings won't impact, well, perhaps 1 month or 2 months on this budget. The benefits will come next year, correct, Lon?
Yeah. Yep. That's correct.
Thanks, Erwin. Graham?
Just a word on the moving to a different location. While Lon is wrestling with the leasehold improvements and the overall cost, it may not save us a lot of money, but hopefully we'll keep in mind that it's a much more attractive space as far as accessibility, parking, and ease of use for both councillors and our residents. So it's got a number of benefits over and above the few dollars that it might save.
Right. Thanks, Graham. Steve, any comments from you, sir?
Not particularly. I mean, the presentation was good, so it's very clear, straightforward, concise. Lon does a very good job in terms of breaking down everything. And yeah, I mean, the only comment I have about the lease, it's also more optics. I mean, as much as I love the view that I can see right now and everything, we don't need the Shangri-La. So.
Yeah, correct. Okay, thank you. Anything further from you, Lon? Any comments? No?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, well, thank you for another great presentation. Hearing nothing from council and no one in the audience and no one online to ask questions, I will close the 2023 financial plan hearing, and thank you all for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stop the recording.